Let us now discuss two lessons for this Unit 9. First, let's discuss Lesson 1, the overview of Philippine literature from the regions. So in this lesson, our main focus is trying to decode and understand the different Philippine literature that are based from the different regions of the country. So for this lesson class, our main objective is to familiarize ourselves with the different literary forms from the different regions and give examples of literary forms from each region according to its influence and contribution. Now, in order for us to begin, here's a very essential question that I would like you to think of, especially going through our lesson. How does regional literature contribute to Philippine culture? Imagine how literature is dealt with to tackle influences in a particular culture, this time a Philippine culture. So let's try to understand, let's try to decode that. How does regional literature contribute to Philippine culture in general? So in this lesson, we are going to tackle the different contributions of not only the regional literatures to the literature aspect of the lesson, but also try to include there its contributions to Philippine culture. Now, for this lesson, we will be encountering the different vocabulary words that I want you to jot down and to remember as we are going to be encountering them as we go along with our lesson. First is drought. Drought is a noun which means a prolonged period of little to no rainfall. O sa Bisaya pa and into our colloquial terms, uga. Drought is a very long time, let's say 3 months or 2 months with no rainfall. That is very, very long already, and we are going to be suffering insatiably. So that is drought. Another is manama. Manama is a proper noun which means the supreme deity in Mindanaoan mythology. This is equivalent to the Bathala of the Tagalog. So kung sa ilaha dito sa Luzon, ang ilang tawag silang supreme deity or the most high is Bathala, diri sa tuwa sa Mindanao is Manama. Example, according to Mindanaoan tradition, Manama created all the humans on earth. Another is Baraan. This is a noun which means baskets normally carried by women in ancient times. The Blaan tribe in Mindanao is said to be named after the Baraan. Another is stalk. Stalk is a noun which means the main stem of a herbaceous plant. Example, aside from their cobs, the stalks of a corn plant also have many uses. And last, bagobo. Bagobo is a proper noun which means a tribe in southern Mindanao whose name is a combination of their native words for new and growth. Example, Sibulan is one of the last ancient settlements of the Bagobo people. So these are the different vocabulary words that we are going to encounter as we have our lesson for today. So make sure that you are able to remember and jot them down as additional knowledge and as tools to best comprehend our lesson. Now, here is a general context that I would like you to take note. The Philippines is home to different ethnic groups from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Take note that each group has its own culture, beliefs, and practices which are embodied in the kinds of literature the writers in each region produce. Meaning to say, kaning mga ethnic groups nga nagagikan sa Luzon, Visayas ug Mindanao adunay kaugalingong kultura, kaugalingong ginatuuhan og mga practices, mga binuhatan kung diin are manifested, right, embodied through the different kinds of literature that the writers in each region produce. That is why it is very important for us to discuss region or literatures from the different regions of the Philippines because collectively this will contribute to how our culture as Filipinos work in general. Muna diri sa to sa Mindanao, we have a very vast and dynamic culture that is mostly based on the stories of the Moro, the stories of the Islam, or the stories of ethnic tribes that have settled here. it is very much alive in Davao City where they honor different ethnic tribes that are settling in their city. Naapuntaan na diri sa tuang province in Davao del Sur wherein we are honoring and acknowledging as well the presence of the different tribes. Mostly dominant is the Blaan and the Bagobo tribe nga naa diri nagsettle sa tuang area sa Davao del Sur. So, ang atuang pasabot lamang ni ini class is that in every particular region or lugar sa tong nasod, aduna tay nagkadaiya nga mga kultura, mga tinuuhan o mga binuhatan or practices. So if you go to, let's say, Visayas or let's say Luzon, they also have their own different cultures, beliefs, and practices that are festive, that also contribute to the embodiment of the kind of literature that every writer in their region or in every region produces. Right? So kung mato kag Mindanao, there are stories about Sultan Kudarat, stories about the great Islam heroes or the great native or ethnic heroes nga tuang madunggan diri sa tuang nga wala gyud nakipagsundo or wala ni surrender sa mga Spaniards. That's why the influence of the Spaniards are very very few here in Mindanao, right? You also have the different stories that are present in Visayas. The story of Lapu-Lapu in Mactan, the story of Magellan, the story of Mount Mayon, so on and so forth, that is present in Luzon. So daghan kitag mga stories, daghan kitag mga literature that are based from the cultural beliefs and practices of every ethnic group that has settled right in those regions of our country. Now, let us try to discuss some of the most common literary genres in the region. So kanisya, these are only very few. But if we take a look at this, mo ni siya ang pinaka-common nga mga literary genres in every or in most regions that we get to encounter, especially when we are very fond of reading, right, different literary pieces that are from the Philippines. Okay. Now, let's first discuss ideological legends. From the word itself, ideological, this explains how things came to be or why things are as they are. Meaning to say, mo ni siya ang storya sa either sinugdanan o nganong mao kana. Right? Example, nganong gitawag siya og gumamela. Right? There is a story behind that. There is an ideological legend behind that. Or giunsa pagsugod or na unsa pagkamugna ni Mount Apo. There are also many different stories, right, of how Mount Apo came to be. Nganong nalahi ang bukid sa Bukidnon, nganong ingon ana ilahang mountain ridges, aduna po na sila legend ana. The beginning, right, how it came to be or why it is like that is called ideological legend. Take note that this is only a legend. What we are going to be discussing are legends, meaning to say not proven by science and not universally accepted. But in their ethnic group, it is accepted and it is honored and revered. So muna, we are very sensitive and we are very responsible when we talk about these legends when we are in front or in an audience of ethnic groups because these are sacred to them. Now, ideological legends are passed down through oral tradition. And commonly, they have anonymous authors. Meaning to say, di mo mahibalaan kung kinsa gyud ang author ani nga mga legends or kinsa gyud ang nagapamatuod that this is witnessed, right? That this is attributed to a particular event or phenomena in the past. Another is epics. Epics narrate the adventures of tribal heroes. The tribal heroes possess traits and values considered ideal by the tribe of origin. Meaning to say, epics are common to the epics that we know in general that are narrations, right, or the adventures of heroes. Kanilang, in the context of regional literature in the Philippines, these are tribal heroes. Examples of these tribal heroes, we have Sultan Kudarat here in the Philippines. Sultan Kudarat is part of a family, a wealthy family that are leaders in their area or in their tribe. So he has different story, or he has a different life lived from his family. We also have from Luzon. The most common literary stories in the regional context are being showed by GMA. GMA's production sa ilang mga teleserye, right, are showing or depicting to us the different literary pieces that are from the regions of the Philippines. Nakoy nakita nga ilang gipakita na before pero ilang gibalik karon. Encantadia is not one of those. lahi sila Enteng Kabisote is one of those. But although the influence is heavily on Philippine literature, Diwata, Anyong Lupa, the elements, right, that are considered very sacred by people worshiping Bathala, or in Mindanao, Manama. So sa ato apod, naputay different tribal heroes di ari sa tuang localities, right? For example, if you go to Central Mindanao, they have their tribal heroes. If you go to Northern Mindanao, they also have their tribal hero, which they attribute either the name of the place or the name of a particular sitio or a particular landmark sila ha. If you go to Jensan, it's not named Jensan for no reason. General Santos. But it's not an epic because it is not kada bitang a narration of a particular tribal hero. Because in Jensen class, although mga tanatang ano gitawag bitaw siya General Santos, no? Actually, General Santos was an American. I think he was American. Let me ask my most reliable source, my 81-year-old grandmother. Si General Santos ba was a American or Filipino? Ay, Filipino di siya. So, General Santos was a Filipino who fought against American invasion in dito silang lugar. Kaya adto ginatawag og badyang, right? After General Santos and his troops fought valiantly para dili masakop sa mga American o Espanyol ang ilahang lugar. That's why the city is honorarily named General Santos City. Though it is not considered an epic, but since we are tackling or talking about attributing names of tribal heroes to the different municipalities or mga lugar sa Pilipinas, that does not cover or that does not follow. Although, if we are going to talk about epics, ang main characters gid niini are the different tribal heroes of every particular region or tribe. Another are folk tales or folklore. Folk tales are traditional stories passed down through oral tradition. This includes fables, riddles, proverbs, folk songs, and sometimes superstitious beliefs. So kung asa nagikan, right, ang maong mga tinuuhan, ang maong mga practices, dira na siya passed or it is passed down through the traditional stories that we hear. Most traditional stories that we hear, fables, riddles, proverbs, folk songs, is ang legendary story ni Chikading. Chikading, naglupad-lupad. No, I'm just kidding. The most famous fables and riddles that we hear, they are sa tuang localities that are also sometimes the source or the basis for superstitious beliefs. Right? Labi na sa kanang mga bata bitaw, nga inagabi na gani, dili na pagawsod sila mga ginikanan, kaya aduna na kunoy aswang, aduna na kunoy tikbalang, ungo, kumbaga. Or, the most famous is si Maria Labo. Dili na kuno pa ko ano kay mga og bata si Maria Labo. Though it is claimed to be psychological, pero ang iyang issue stems from the different fables or the different superstitious beliefs. For example, kung magsuot ka or kung mag-nail cutter ka o gabi o masamad ka dili maulian or dili ka manilhig kung naay namatyan. So those are the different superstitious beliefs that stemmed from the different fables, riddles, proverbs that are traditionally passed on through oral traditions. And lastly, we have myths. Myths are stories that involve the native pantheon of gods and goddesses. Meaning to say, these are not proven facts or universally accepted, pero these are stories that are revered because ang involved niini kato mga gods and goddesses. Kinsa ni nga different gods and goddesses that are believed to be the source ngano ginatawag na siya og inana nga phenomenon or inana nga story. Example, Mount Mayon. So si Mount Mayon, naa siya nindot nga story because kaniadto daw, this is also taken from the episode of Jessica Soho. I don't know what's the title of her, Kapuso Mo Jessica Soho. According to the legends in Legazpi Albay, kaniadtong panahon, Mount Mayon did not had fire. Meaning to say, wa siya gabuga og lava. So kung unsa ka active nga volcano si Mount Mayon karon, dili siya yung na ka-active before. He was just only known for his perfectly coned shape as a volcano. So according to their kwentong bayan or myth nila, Mount Mayon asked for fire sa iyahang mga kauban nga volcanoes around. We have Masaraga and the other one, Masaraga and the other volcano which the name I cannot seem to remember. So, I'm talking about Masaraga because according to their urban legend or according to their myth, Mount Mayon carved out a particular piece of Mount Masaraga para naa siya iyang kaugalingong fire. So, iyang gi-carve out or og nila pa pinakol. Right? Iyang gi-carve out kato isa ka lugar mo na nga og tan-aw nimo si Mount Masaraga. If you go to the summit of Mount Masaraga, makita nimo nga ang iyahang ang volcano is perfectly coned shape. Nasa'y natunga nga bahin kana mura bitaw gi-carve out nga part. So dili siya perfectly shaped cone compared to Mount Mayon because it is broken nga mura gid siya gikwaan og kanang fire. So those are the different myths in Albay, right? That involved the native pantheon of their gods and goddesses. Myths now explain a belief or custom or a strange natural phenomenon that is happening. That's why many locals in Legazpi Albay say that it is cursed. Mauna nga, si Mount Mayon, don't get me wrong, Mount Mayon produces fertilizers for crops to grow. He is life-giving, but he could also take away life because of how active a volcano it is or Mount Mayon is. Muna nga, ingon sila, matod pa sa mga natives in that area, Mount Mayon took fire from Mount Masaraga. Mo na si Mount Masaraga karon ang dormant, unya karon si Mount Mayon ang nagaalboroto. Right? So those are the different beliefs or strange natural phenomenon nga gigikanan sa usa ka particular nga event. In this case, Mount Mayon. Right? So those are some of the most common literary genres that we can see and encounter in the regional literatures in our country. Now, if you hear background noises, class, please do excuse me because I am at home recording this lecture video at the moment. Now, I want you to go to this literary piece. This is the story of the Bagobo creation. This is entitled Origin. So let's try to look right at the literary piece of Origin. All right? Okay, so as you can see, medyo taas ni siya nga basahon. So, if we are going to read this particular story, it tackles about how the Bagobo tribe came to be. Okay, so I'm going to read you the first parts of the first page. In the beginning, there lived one man and one woman, Toglay and Toglibon. Their first children were a boy and a girl. When they were old enough, the boy and the girl went far away across the waters seeking a good place to live in. Nothing more was heard of them until their children, the Spaniards and Americans, came back. After the first boy and girl left, other children were born to the couple, but they all remained at Kibolan on Mount Apo with their parents until Toglay and Toglibon died and became spirits. Soon after that, there came a great drought which lasted for 3 years. All the waters dried up, so that there were no rivers and no plants could live. Surely, said the people, Manama is punishing us, and we must go elsewhere to find food and a place to dwell in. So they started out. Two went in the direction of the sunset, carrying with them stones from Kibolan River. After a long journey, they reached a place with broad fields of kogon grass and an abundance of water, and there they made their home. Their children still live in that place and are called Maguindanao because of the stones which the couple carried when they left Sibolan. Two other children of Toglay and Toglibon went to the south seeking a home, and each of them carried a baraan. When they found a good spot, they settled down. Their descendants still dwelling at that place are called Baraan or Blaan because the Baraan they carried. So two by two the children of the first couple left the land of their birth. In the place where each settled, a new people developed, and thus it came about that all the tribes in the world received their names from things that the people carried out from Sibolan, or from the places where they settled. All the children left Mount Apo, save two, a boy and a girl, whom hunger and thirst had made too weak to travel. One day, when they were about to die, the boy crawled out to the field to see if there was one living thing. And to his surprise, he found a stalk of sugar cane growing lustily. He eagerly cut it, and enough water came out to refresh him and his sister until the rains came. Because of this, their children are called Bagobo. So it is quite a fascinating story, right, of how the Bagobo tribe came to be. So it started from uh, a very challenging circumstance, adunay drought, until they went to different places. They left their place of origin, which is in Sibolan in Mount Apo. If you talk about Sibolan now, makita nato na siya sa Santa Cruz. Bukid po na siya, so this could be a really good basis on why Bagobo tribes are, the way they are. Ang ilang mga tinuuhan, ilang kultura, ang ilang mga practices, because we can all attribute to it. Kikita doon lang man, naaramang kita sa tiilan sa Mount Apo, right? And we can go to the place known as Sibolan. That's why this is considered a very revered story of the Bagobo tribe, because this is their creation story from how Manama blessed them, and at the same time they believed punished them for being able, or for withstanding, right, ang mga decrees ni Manama, or as I have said, Bathala in other words. So in closing, after learning about all the different or the common literary genres of the regional literature of the Philippines, a very important question as we integrate our lessons follows. How does learning about the common literature across regions give you a better sense of nationalism and appreciation of our shared Filipino culture? Remember that no one tribe in no one particular region owns this literature, because, again, we are interrelated with one another as Filipinos. So possibly that our stories here in Region 11 in Mindanao are only similar or are only less different from the stories of those that are from Cebu. Kaya doon na tayo mga different developments of these stories as we went along the times. So the question now is, how does learning about these literary pieces across the regions give us a better sense of nationalism and appreciate our shared Filipino cultures? Remember that these stories are not to divide us, but to understand how we came to be as a nation and what are the different aspects, the different cultures, beliefs, and practices that are embodied by every tribe, and most importantly, how we can live with each other, with one another, by respecting the different cultures, beliefs, and practices of these tribes. So a very important takeaway from this lesson, I hope you were able to learn a lot, and most of all, enjoy learning about the different literary regional literary pieces of the beautiful Philippines. Thank you, and God bless everybody.